creating conversations that grow. Arrow.net, ARROE.net. We are unplugged and totally uncut with Tom Blyth from Billy the Kid.
Good morning, Arrow. How's it going?
Tom. I have been waiting to talk with you, man. I hope you are having a fantastic morning.
Oh, man, I hope I live up to the expectation. I am. It's nice to be talking to you about the show.
Well, you've got Billy the Kid, and here's the thing. He's the ultimate bad guy that has turned into a superhero. I mean, he is that guy.
He is. I like the fact that you call him a superhero because that's kind of how I see him. I see him as like a reluctant superhero without any superpowers. You know, he's someone who is faced with obstacles and violence and trauma at every step of his life, and he has to find out how to overcome it. I kind of think of him as like the Western Batman in a way. You know, someone who has to utilize the world around him in a really skillful, savvy way in order to survive and try and do right by his people. One
of the things that you guys are doing with EPIX and Billy the Kid is that you're making him authentic in the way that we get to see his story, that it has been a struggle, that he's just not the bad guy today, bad guy tomorrow. I mean, he grew into that position.
Yeah, the whole show, especially this first season, is really asking the question. Yes, we think of him as this killer because he did kill people, he murdered people at a very young age. But really asking the question why, because he wasn't born that way. He didn't come out of the womb as a killer, you know, nobody does. And so it's really a closer look at the Billy that we think we know, and kind of saying, you know, what was the real story? What was really going on under the surface there that made him into this kind of mythologized legend that we only kind of think we know. There's so much more going on under the surface.
I think one of the greatest quotes that comes from the first season is, "Don't mess up your life for people that don't matter." When I heard that, I was like, what? That's powerful.
Yeah. Well, to which he responds, "They matter to me." And I think that's another thing that we don't really know about Billy so much, is that if you go to New Mexico and go to Lincoln County and to Lincoln, where the Lincoln County War happened, which is really kind of when everything kind of shifted for him and when he became this mythologized person, and when he had to really step up to the plate as a cowboy and as a shooter. If you look at a lot of the history down there, he was kind of a champion of the little people. He was a champion of the people who were not seen as civilians, as humans. You know, the local Mexican community down there at the time were kind of a second-class citizens, so to speak, and he saw that, and he saw himself in them because as an Irishman escaping the famine, his family came to New York and were second-class citizens in New York where they couldn't find work. And so when he went to New Mexico and eventually Lincoln, he saw himself in the local community, and he became entrenched in them, and he spoke fluent Spanish, so they loved him for that. And he really fought on the behalf of the local farmers and the people who, you know, these corrupt officials and sheriffs at the time in the area, who were all, you know, under the pay of the criminals of the time. He really kind of stood up to them and spoke truth to power on behalf of the everyman.
Do you realize that with a small twist, he could have become a politician that changes lives because he was so dedicated to his community?
He was. You know, I don't think he would be a politician, though, to be honest. I think he's too gritty. I think he saw corruption at such a high level that he would never want to be part of it. I think he was always an outsider. I think from day one, he was someone who spoke truth to power. And in the show, we see that in young Billy, played by Jonah Collier, who's a fantastic young actor. And he plays him with this kind of wisdom beyond his years. And I think that's true of Billy. I think he's someone who saw the kind of inner workings of the world and was willing to step outside the status quo to change things. And ultimately, you know, it didn't go in his favor. He was kind of snuffed out at a very young age by a corrupt official who was once his friend, Pat Garrett. And so, yeah, to answer your question, I don't think he would be a politician, but I do think he might today have been some sort of activist or something.
Yep. You know, that one of the things that is a total standout about Billy the Kid on EPIX is the fact that you are using authentic accents, because so many Westerns of the past, you know, I'm Billy the Kid, I'm the tough guy, I'm the real bad butt over here. But I love how real you've made this entire storyline.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, that's a high compliment. I appreciate that. A lot of work has gone into it. I mean, we filmed on location in Alberta, Canada, which for all intents and purposes could be anywhere in the continental US because it's the same landscape. And so we were filmed in the dust during the hottest summer on record, so it felt incredibly real and authentic in that way. And for me, building the character from day one, a lot of his personality is about his physical life and what makes him survive the Old West in a place that was very difficult to survive in, especially when he was on the run, sleeping out under the stars. And so for me, it was about finding that kind of gravel and grit in his voice and what made him kind of drop low in his physicality, because he spent most of the time on horseback, and that does something to your body. It changes the way you stand, it changes the way you walk. And so all those physical altercations of my body to become more like Billy, for me, just brought him closer to me, and I felt him kind of, at some point, I kind of just felt it has become one, which was kind of amazing.
It's so funny you talk about riding horses. I'm from the state of Montana, where we had to bring in the cattle during the spring or take them out during the spring and then bring them back in during the fall. You're right about riding those horses because you feel like that you've been on the water for the past 6 or 7 hours, and you've got to retrain yourself to walk when you get off that horse.
Oh, man, you really do. I mean, your legs are like jelly after 10 hours on a horseback. They really are. And after a while, you actually start to love that feeling, and it starts to become something you look forward to every day. But I tell you, the first few days of riding, I was in agony. I would get up. I'd ridden a few times in my life to very little success, but this was next level. I was riding, with Daniel Webber, who plays Jesse Evans, my kind of counterpart. Him and I would get up at like 5 a.m., we'd be on a horse by 6 a.m., and then we'd be riding until 6 p.m.
Yep.
Sometimes. It was like 12 hours of riding a day. And not just riding, not just like walking. We'd be spending like hours at full intervals of full gallop, like hunting down and roping cows at full speed. There's a few sequences in the show which you'll see, which are like, there's full stampedes of cattle that we're riding in amongst and darting left and right. And it's a miracle that we never came down off the horse, but, knock on wood, the next season, no one so far has injured themselves, and I don't want to tempt fate, but I would say that's a credit to the producers and to the wranglers we had on the set, because it was all so authentic, and the guys knew what they were doing from day one and looked after us very well.
Well, I want to congratulate you on Billy the Kid. I look forward to this season. I look forward to talking about this and getting people to really get involved with this. And I do think it's going to be probably the top Halloween costume this year. Billy the Kid costumes, dude.
Hey, man, I'd be honored if people started dressing as Billy and we can all go to Halloween parties together. Yeah.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay, sir?
Thank you so much. I appreciate you enjoying the show, and I hope everyone tunes in.